If you've been told that neuropathy in your feet and legs is just something you manage, that the burning, the tingling, the numbness is permanent, and the best you can do is slow it down, that's not the whole story. Because specific exercises can actually trigger your body's nerve repair system, and most people with neuropathy are never told that. Here's what most people are given instead: medication to dull the pain, maybe some advice to be careful on uneven surfaces, and a general sense that this is just what life looks like now. I'm not dismissing any of that. Some of it matters. But what almost nobody talks about is what movement can do. Specific movement. The right exercises done consistently. Your body has a protein called BDNF that is essentially your nervous system's repair crew, and one of the most reliable ways to trigger your body to produce more of it. Exercise, aerobic movement, strength work, balance training. These aren't just helping you feel better, they're signaling your body to actually work on those damaged nerves. That's not a feel-good claim, that's neuroscience. And the other thing nobody tells you, neuropathy isn't just a diabetic condition. Research out of the NIH found that among adults, over 70, nearly 40% show signs of peripheral neuropathy, the majority of them without a diabetes diagnosis. If you're watching this and thinking, but I don't have diabetes, that doesn't mean this doesn't apply to you. It might apply to you more than you realize. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the only 7 exercises you need. We'll cover why each one works, not just what to do, but what's actually happening in your body when you do it. And I'll show you how to build these into a simple routine you can start today, right at home, with a chair. Let's get into it. So before we get into the exercises, you need to understand what's actually happening in your legs and feet, because once you see the full picture, the exercises make a lot more sense. Your peripheral nerves are the longest nerves in your body. The ones that run from your lower spine all the way down to your toes are covering serious distance. And that distance matters, because the further a nerve has to travel, the harder it is to keep it supplied with blood, oxygen, and nutrients. Think of it like a garden hose. The further you stretch it from the tap, the weaker the pressure gets at the end. Now here's the problem. Neuropathy, whatever the cause, disrupts that supply line. The nerve fibers start to degrade. Some lose their protective coating called the myelin sheath. Others lose blood supply entirely. And when that happens, the signals your nerves are supposed to be sending, there's ground under your foot. That surface is uneven. Adjust your balance right now. Those signals get distorted, or they stop arriving altogether. That's where the tingling comes from, the burning, the numbness. And that last one, the numbness, is actually the one I want you to pay close attention to, because it's the most dangerous. When you can't feel the ground properly under your feet, your body loses something called proprioception. That's your sense of where you are in space. And without it, your balance system is essentially flying blind. So what does that mean in real terms? Having neuropathy triples your risk of falling compared to someone without it. Not doubles, triples. And we're not talking about minor stumbles here. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death in adults over 65. This is the thing most people with neuropathy aren't fully told, that the tingling in their feet is directly connected to a fall risk that could change everything. And I've seen it happen. Someone who was walking their dog every morning, tending their garden, living fully, and then one fall, one moment of lost footing, and suddenly everything is harder. I'm not telling you that to scare you. I'm telling you that because that outcome isn't inevitable. It's preventable. And the 7 exercises we're about to cover are specifically designed to address the exact things neuropathy takes away. Circulation to those starved nerve endings, strength in the small muscles of the foot that support your balance, and the proprioceptive signals your nervous system needs to keep you upright and steady. That's the why behind every single one of them. Keep that in mind as we go through them. All right, so let's start with the exercises that target circulation and mobility first, because before you can strengthen anything, you need blood actually moving down into those nerve endings. That's the foundation everything else builds on. Exercise 1, ankle circles. This one looks almost too simple. And I'll be honest, when I first started recommending this to people dealing with neuropathy, some of them looked at me like I was wasting their time. Like, really? Ankle circles? But stay with me here, because there's more happening than it looks like. Sit in a sturdy chair with your feet flat on the floor. Lift one foot slightly off the ground. Now slowly rotate your ankle in a full circle, 10 times clockwise, 10 times counterclockwise. Then switch feet. That's it. What's actually happening when you do this? You're pumping synovial fluid through the ankle joint, which improves mobility, but more importantly for neuropathy, you're stimulating blood flow into the very end of those long peripheral nerves we talked about, the ones that are starved for circulation. Every rotation is essentially pushing fresh oxygenated blood toward the nerve endings in your feet. Do this 2 to 3 times a day. Morning is especially important. Your circulation is at its lowest when you first wake up, and your neuropathy symptoms will often feel worst right then because of it. Exercise 2, toe curls. This one targets what are called the intrinsic muscles of the foot, the small muscles that live inside the foot itself, not the big calf muscles most people think about. And this is where things start to get interesting, because these are exactly the muscles that neuropathy tends to attack first. When nerve signals to the intrinsic foot muscles get disrupted, those muscles weaken fast. And when they weaken, your foot loses its ability to grip the ground, to adapt to surface changes, to stabilize your ankle mid-step. That's a big piece of why balance deteriorates with neuropathy. It's not just about sensation, it's about muscle function. Here's how to do it. Sit in your chair, feet flat on the floor. Slowly curl your toes downward, like you're trying to grip the floor with them. Hold for 3 seconds, then spread them wide as you can, and hold again. 10 to 15 reps per foot. Now, if you want to add a layer to this, put a small towel flat on the floor and use your toes to scrunch it toward you. Same movement, but now you're working against resistance. It's a small thing. But research out of a 625-person randomized trial found that exactly this type of intrinsic foot muscle training produced measurable increases in toe strength and ankle function in people with peripheral neuropathy in 8 weeks. 8 weeks of toe curls. Think about what that means. Exercise 3, calf raises. Okay, so this one is doing 2 things at once, and I want you to understand both of them. Stand behind your chair and hold the back of it lightly for balance. Just fingertip contact, not a death grip. Slowly rise up onto the balls of your feet. Hold for 2 to 3 seconds at the top, then lower back down with control. That controlled lowering is actually the most important part. 10 to 15 reps, 2 to 3 times a day. The first thing calf raises are doing is strengthening the big calf muscle, your primary shock absorber when you walk. When neuropathy weakens this muscle, every step sends more impact straight into your joints and your spine. The second thing, and this is the part most people miss, your calf muscles act like a second heart for your lower body. Every time they contract, they squeeze blood back up through your veins toward your core. Without that pumping action, blood pools in the feet and lower legs. And pooled, stagnant blood is exactly the opposite of what damaged nerve endings need. So the calf raise isn't just a leg exercise, it's a circulation exercise. For someone with neuropathy, that distinction matters. So with circulation and foot strength covered, this next pair targets something different. This is where we start working on the nervous system directly, specifically on proprioception, that sense of where your body is in space that we talked about earlier. These 2 exercises are less about muscle and more about rewiring the communication between your feet and your brain. Exercise 4, seated marching. Sit upright in your chair, back straight, feet flat on the floor. Slowly lift one knee toward your chest, as high as is comfortable. Lower it with control, then the other side. 20 reps, each leg, alternating. Now this looks like a hip flexor exercise, and it is. But for someone with neuropathy, The more important thing happening is the rhythmic sensory input it's sending up through your legs. Every time you lift and lower, your hip flexors, your knee joint, your ankle, they're all sending position signals up to your brain. You're essentially practicing the conversation between your lower body and your nervous system. When neuropathy has been interrupting that conversation for a while, that pathway gets rusty. It doesn't disappear, but it gets sluggish. Seated marching is a low-risk way to start clearing the line again. And because you're seated, there's zero fall risk, which means you can focus entirely on the movement and the sensation rather than on staying upright. Do this while you're watching television if you want. The consistency matters more than the setting. Exercise. 5. Foot alphabet. Okay, well, actually, let me set this one up properly before I give you the instructions, because out of context it sounds a little strange. Sit in your chair, extend one leg so your foot is slightly off the floor. Using your ankle and toes, keeping your leg as still as you can, write the letters of the alphabet in the air, a through Z, one foot, then the other. What this is doing is moving your ankle through every possible range of motion, not just up-down, not just circles, every angle, every direction, small precise adjustments. And here's the thing, that precision is exactly what your ankle joint needs to recalibrate its position sensing. Remember when we talked about how neuropathy scrambles the signals your nerves send about where your foot is? The alphabet exercise is essentially a recalibration drill for that system. You're not just moving the joint, you're forcing dozens of tiny adjustments per letter. 26 letters means 26 opportunities to wake up nerve pathways that have gone quiet. It also builds ankle mobility in a way that ankle circles alone can't, because the irregular movement pattern requires your stabilizer muscles to constantly adapt. That adaptability is exactly what protects you when you step onto an uneven surface, a crack in the sidewalk, a slight slope, a rug edge. And I want to stop here for a second, because this is the part of the conversation I think matters most. Think about 5 years from now, 10 years, because here's what I've seen, and it's the thing that stays with me. Someone who ignored the early signals, the tingling, the occasional stumble they wrote off, and kept doing what they'd always done, assuming their body would hold, and then it didn't. Not because of one big event, but because of 1,000 small moments where the balance slipped just a little, where the foot didn't feel the ground quite right, where the muscle that was supposed to catch them wasn't strong enough anymore. I've talked to people who can no longer walk to their mailbox without holding on to something, who stopped going to their grandchildren's events because the parking lot felt too unpredictable, who gave up hiking or gardening or dancing. Not all at once, but gradually, quietly, until one day they realized they'd stopped doing the things that made life feel like theirs. And almost every single one of them said some version of the same thing. They wished they'd started sooner. That's not where this has to go, not if you start addressing it now. The research is clear. A meta-analysis covering 17 clinical trials found that structured exercise programs reduced fall-related injuries in seniors by 37%, serious injuries by 43%, and broken bones by 61%. 61%. That's not a small margin. That's life-changing. The exercises we're covering today are not complicated. They don't require a gym. They don't require equipment. They require maybe 20 minutes and a chair. That's a trade worth making. So with that in mind, let's finish with the last two. And these are the ones I'd argue matter most, because they take everything the first 5 exercises built and put it to use in real movement, in the kind of movement that actually protects you when you're out in the world. Exercise 6. Heel to toe walking. You may have heard of this one under a different name, tandem walking, tightrope walking. The idea is simple. Walk in a straight line, placing the heel of your front foot directly against the toes of your back foot with every step, heel to toe, touching, like you're walking a balance beam, 10 to 20 steps forward, then turn and come back. Do this holding one hand lightly along a wall if you need to at the start. That's not cheating, that's smart. Now pay attention to this. What heel-to-toe walking is doing is forcing your nervous system to process constant, rapid balance corrections with every step. Your ankles are making dozens of tiny adjustments as your weight shifts from one foot to the other. Your brain is receiving a continuous stream of proprioceptive feedback and responding to it in real time. This is essentially a conversation between your feet and your nervous system. And the more fluently you can have that conversation, the safer you are on any surface, in any environment. Uneven pavement, a soft lawn, a grocery store floor, it doesn't matter. The nervous system that's been practicing this transfer of weight and correction is the one that catches you before a stumble becomes a fall. Tai Chi, which is fundamentally built around exactly this kind of slow, deliberate, weight-shifting balance work, has been shown in research to reduce falls in seniors by up to 58%. 58. That's what consistent balance training does when it's done right and done regularly. Heel-to-toe walking is the accessible version of that same principle. You don't need a class, you need a hallway. Exercise. 7. Single leg balance. Hold. This is the last one, and it's the hardest, which is also why it delivers the most. Stand behind your chair, hands resting lightly on the back. Lift one foot just off the floor. A few inches is enough. Hold for 10 seconds. Lower. Switch sides. That's one round. Work up to 3 rounds per side. When that starts to feel manageable, progress it. Try closing your eyes for a few seconds during the hold, or move your hands to just fingertip contact, or try it standing on a folded towel instead of a flat floor. Each of those small changes forces your proprioceptive system to work harder, to rely less on visual input or surface stability, and more on the signals coming up from your feet themselves. This brings us back to something from the very beginning of this video. We talked about BDNF, your body's nerve repair protein, and how exercise triggers it. Single leg balance work is one of the highest demand proprioceptive challenges you can do safely at home. The demand it puts on your nervous system is significant. You are not just training your muscles when you do this. You are giving your nervous system a reason to invest in those repair pathways. That matters, especially if you've been told there's nothing you can do. So here's where you are now. You have 7 exercises. Pick 2 or 3, the ones that felt most relevant when you heard them. Start there. Be consistent for 2 weeks, then add another. The improvements in strength, mobility, and fall risk reduction come from regularity, not intensity. 20 minutes most days beats an hour once a week every time. Your nervous system is more adaptable than you've probably been led to believe. It responds to input. It responds to challenge. The tingling, the numbness, the balance issues, none of that is fixed and final. Some of it is telling you that your nerves are still alive, still sending signals, still capable of improvement if you give them what they need. That's worth something. That's worth 20 minutes. If this was helpful, hit that subscribe button. The next video is going to cover what to eat to support nerve health from the inside. You're going to want to see that one. Take care of yourself and start today.